Federal High Court in Abuja today refused to sack Professor Ben Ayade as the governor of Cross River State over a suit challenging his defection from the PDP to the APC. And Professor Soyinka speaks more on the death of Bola Ige in the wake of APC National Convention and issues of morality of the APC-led federal government. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimalo in Abuja. Perhaps where we should start from is to give you a benefit of getting an understanding of what has been happening in your world of politics on your political roundup. When we come back, there's so much more to talk about on the program, especially as relates to Professor Ben Ayade and his deputy and the case about the defection from the PDP to the APC, the legal issues, and perhaps also we're hearing on what is the latest as far as that court case was concerned. Stay with us. But let's tell you that the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Abdullah Adamu, today had visited the presidential villa where he met President Muhammadu Buhari. But he says today that all options are available for the choice of a flag bearer for the All Progressives Congress when the party holds its primaries. Those were his words. And he went to the villa to meet with the president on a private visit alongside the former acting national chairman of the caretaker committee of the party and the governor of Yobe State, Mayor Malabuni. The party chairman stated that the visit was to brief the president on the plans for the upcoming party primaries and plans to position the party for the 2023 elections. Take a listen to him.
Direct primaries, indirect, and consensus. The party has a choice which of these paths it will take. Since the history of democracy in this country, First Republic, Second Republic, up to where we are today, I don't remember any convention the size we held. I don't remember any convention that there were misgivings about the possibility of his success than this one. We came out clean, and we thought the leadership that Mr. President provided the party has made all this possible. So I came with my predecessor to come and touch base with Mr. President and to, with gratitude, inform him that we have fully handed over. I'm in charge of this party, and by the grace of God, we will be honest. We will take the trust that is thrust on us with every seriousness and every sense of patriotism.
All right, then let's serve you now with your political roundup stories.
Still in Ogun State, the battle for the seat of power come 2023 general elections is getting heated as Jimmy Lawal, who recently dumped the All Progressives Congress, is joining the race on the platform of the People's Democratic Party. The governorship hopeful, while declaring his intention in Abeokuta in the presence of party leaders and supporters, says he's ready to change the narrative of current situations for better if voted into power. Pastors under the aegis of Interfaith Alliance staged a peaceful protest on the major roads of Kaduna metropolis, bearing placards with inscriptions to draw attention to the incessant attacks and killings by bandits. The group called on federal governments to put an end to the carnage. The religious leaders also appealed to the federal government to implement the submissions made by Governor Nasir El-Rufai and launch a massive and precise bombing of the bandits inside the forest. In addition, they demanded compensation for all victims of bandit attacks, award scholarship to children affected by banditry, and also rebuild communities ravaged by attacks. This, according to the convener of the Interfaith Alliance, Reverend Emmanuel Adebayo, will cushion the suffering of the victims and make them overcome the psychological trauma they've been experiencing.
That's why we have come out to seek for divine intervention concerning the issues of peace and security in Kaduna State and Nigeria at large.
The Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission has reviewed Nigeria's vertical revenue allocation formula. The 4-volume report of the review was presented to President Muhammad Buhari at the State House in Abuja during a visit by the delegation from the Commission.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's tell you that since the National Convention of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Professor Wole Soyinka has raised an eyebrow over some of one of the elected members of the National Working Committee of the APC and the issues of the death of the late Chief Bola Ige, a former Minister of Power and the former Attorney General of the Federation. Now, Professor Wole Soyinka has expressed a willingness to be involved in the legal proceedings to unravel the killers of a former Attorney General, Chief Bola Ige. The Nobel laureate had in a statement said the resumption of an investigation into Bola Ige's murder was already hamstrung and disrobed of credibility with the emergence of a prime suspect, according to him, in the case as the National Secretary of the ruling All Progressives Congress. A former Deputy Governor of Osun State, Chief Iyolo Omishore, emerged as the party's National Secretary at a convention. In 2022, he was arraigned for Bola Ige's murder, but later acquitted alongside 10 others tried for the case. Mr. Omishore, who replied to Professor Wole Soyinka's position in a statement, also instructed his lawyer to write the elder statesman demanding a retraction of the comments. Now, the professor is taking the matter up again. Take a listen to Professor Wole Soyinka at the press conference today in Lagos.
The last anniversary of Bola Ige's brother, and just reminded him of his pledge. And I was gratified that the response was instant. He asked the Inspector General of Police to dust up those files, the unsolved cases, and report to the nation. And we're waiting. In the meantime, however, he took a step, not just he, the leadership of the ruling party, the APC, took a very strange and contradictory step. Because if you want an open investigation, you don't include in your team, even if it's in another direction, if it's a position which in some way or the other may reflect on the outcome of the investigation. You don't then choose that time to put that individual, escalate that individual to a position of potential influence. That's all. For me, this is contradictory, and it totally just vitiates the element of sincerity which one would have attributed to the president's decision to reopen the files. That's all.
Well, Professor Wole Soyinka also gave his views on sundry issues. One of the crucial issue is that of the election and who will be the next leader of the country ahead of the 2023 election. Take a listen to Professor Wole Soyinka.
I've just decided that I will take a ringside seat on the coming elections. You see, the situation is so not confused, no, it's quite clear to some extent, but at the same time it's turbid in the sense that, look at the two major parties. There's been such crossing over from one rivulet to another, each crossing having its own purpose, that it's getting very difficult to even distinguish between the two major parties. And unfortunately, the youth of this nation don't seem to want to take their destiny in their own hands. In other words, if you remember during the last elections, we encouraged the youth to mobilize, get a consensus candidate, and of course, capable, not just youthful, not youth for youth's sake, but a really effective and potentially effective leader, and present that candidate to us. Well, they failed to do that, and I have a fear that the same thing will happen this year. So very likely, all I'll do is take French leave of the elections and just watch the results.
Laureate equally lent his voice on the security situation in the country.
Then, see, this government needs help. It no longer can cope. And not just now. It's been going on for years. And I don't know that really it's just that the citizens of this country should live under such a cloud, such uncertainty. Get up in the morning, you don't know if you get back at night. But of course, the problem hasn't just begun. That's what I want everybody to understand. There has been laxity, there's been tolerance of impunity, in fact, the encouragement of impunity. There's been the compromise even within the judiciary so that cases are not solved in time and seem to be solved very objectively. There's been, of course, the thieving of money, funds intended for the military to combat insurgency, whether of the religious or the secular kind, known as banditry. So it's a multi-level situation, and it did not begin just now. If we don't keep stressing that, we'll never get to the root of the problem or find effective ways of not only tackling but eradicating the problem. So it's an old sore which has now gone gangrenous.
Then Professor Wale Soyinka, who gave a sad exclusive to Channels Television after the press conference, he addressed himself and Mr. Femi Falana on the issue of the death of the late Attorney General of the Federation, Chief Bola Ige. Now to our main story of the night. Governor Ben Ayade of Cross River State will remain on his seat. That is a verdict of the court today. The Federal High Court in Abuja dismissed a suit seeking to declare vacant the seat of the Cross River State Governor Ben Ayade. Justice Taiwo cited the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Enugu that defection is not a ground for removal from office. The judge noted that the removal of a sitting governor and his deputy can only be done in line with constitutional provisions. He added that under such provisions, the judiciary lacks the powers to remove an elected officer. He, however, agreed that defection from a winning party to a losing one is immoral and improper. Governor Ayade defected to the All Progressives Congress APC in May 2021 from the People's Democratic Party PDP, citing the allure of working with President Muhammadu Buhari. The PDP subsequently filed a suit against the governor and his deputy, Professor Ivare Esu, arguing that they had abandoned the political party that sponsored their re-election last year, from the lawyer to Governor Ayade and his deputy after the proceedings in court today.
Members of Assembly and members of the National Assembly are governed by Section 68, subsection 1G, and Section 109, subsection 1G. Even then, what the Court of Appeal, Enugu Judicial Division, heard last week is that even at that, it is not the function of a court to remove them from office, to sack them. The function of the court is to order a by-election. And that in terms of the removal of a governor or deputy, just like president and vice president, as decided by the Supreme Court, the apex court of the land, the highest court of the land, in all laws and all legal matters, the Supreme Court had decided in that article's case that defection by president or vice president, and of course by parity, governor and deputy governor, is not one of the grounds permitted by the Constitution to remove a governor who has been sworn in, who has taken the oath of office and oath of allegiance.
Well, That is senior advocate Michael Zakame, who led the team that defended Governor Ben Ayade on that particular matter. But we'll take a breather, everyone. When we come back, we look at the legal implication of that judgment. Don't forget, that is not the only case that that is being brought to the court. As far as defection of a governor and his deputy is concerned, it happened in Ebonyi State. It happened in Cross River State, but the position of the Federal High Court today took a leave from the appeal court position, which has a superior position or has a precedent and which can also be taken over a Federal High Court. So the position of the appeal court is that you cannot sack a sitting governor. Well, we'll take a critical look at that when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So, today, the court says that it cannot remove Governor Ben Ayade from office over his defection, himself and his deputy, from the PDP to the APC. And we're looking at the legal implication of that. I'm being joined from Boston in the Boston by Mr. Samson Itodo. He's a lawyer and a right activist. Thank you so much, Mr. Itodo, for joining us tonight. Give us a sense on the premise in which the Federal High Court in Abuja today placed its judgment. It was placed on the premise of the appeal court ruling that a sitting governor cannot be removed from office. What's your view on today's ruling?
Well, good evening, Cheryl. Well, I've not read the judgment of the Federal High Court, but I'm sure it's relying on a precedent set by the Court of Appeal and the judgments on the Ebonyi case on David Umahi's defection, which the Court of Appeal upheld in what I would consider a very controversial circumstance. The position of the Constitution, is clear as to the grounds for cross-carpeting, and it did, very, very clearly states that there has to be a division within a particular political party, and that division can be such that it's unresolved, and that can form a basis for defection. But if you look at the cases, it is clear that there wasn't any sort of division in these parties. There may be some tensions within the parties, but to the best that we know, there weren't any divisions within the parties. And in any case, there's also the moral question. And if you look at how the court, particularly the Court of Appeal ruled in the Ebonyi case, it raised some questions as to the level of integrity, as well as to a large extent, whether their lordships, did follow the procedure. Because the Court of Appeal ruled on that particular matter within a couple of days. And that really raised some question as to the credibility of that. And my view is, if a candidate, if a governor who runs on, a particular party and wins on the basis of votes casted for him, for that party, I think it's morally, wrong for you to decamp when there is no division within your party, because the Supreme Court has held that votes in an election, and this is our jurisprudence, that votes in an election belong to a political party. So in any case, if you're occupying a position, having won in an election, those votes actually belong to your political party. And when you're crossing from one party to another, then I think it's just right that you leave that position because you hold that position actually for a political party.
Let's look at, I know morality is something that is just persuasive as far as jurisprudence and legal issues are concerned. The law deals with facts of the matter and the law. But let's talk about part of what the judge said today, which one may regard as maybe the obiter of that judgment, is the issue of morality, whether or not an elected officer can jump ship, can move from the political party where he was elected, where he got the mandate. It's been established, like you said, that it's that party that gives you the mandate that you should stay on. So morally speaking, and in view of our political landscape in Nigeria, how far can we drive that conversation, or can we judge those who move, considering the fact that issues of ideology is a major problem? It doesn't look like Professor Akinyobo will say, that all the political parties in Nigeria, the major political parties in Nigeria, they are like 6.5 dozen. They're more or less like the same because of issues of political ideology. What's your view on that, Samson?
I think that is an oversimplification to think that, our political parties don't have an ideology. I think that our parties do have an ideology. It's just that there's some affinity, or both parties or most parties actually share similar ideology, and this is why political parties, individuals can jump from one political party to another. But I think that if we look at this from a moral point of view, and if you look at the Constitution was very clear, as to the conditions where an individual, but in this case, a governor can cross carpet, and the conditions are there that there has to be some division within the political party. Now, let's be clear that I think it's moral bankruptcy for an individual who secures the vote. First, you campaign on a particular political party. In fact, let's go back to the qualifications and the criteria, for contesting for office. The Constitution is clear in relevant sections that first, you must be a citizen of Nigeria, have a first school living certificate, and you must be sponsored by a political party. And this is where their lordships in the Supreme Court actually draw inspiration when they have held in several cases that votes in an election belong to a political party. And so if you run for elections under the platform of a political party and people subscribe, to the manifesto of a political party and the ideology of a political party, and they cast their votes, for a particular political party, when that individual is leaving that particular seat, that particular party, even when he holds that seat, I think that it is just honorable, it is morally right for you to leave that office if you are, cross-carpeting to another political party. Because that office that you hold, you actually hold it on the basis of votes cast for a political party. And that's, my view when it comes to the moral question, because I think it's just deceit. You campaign on a particular political party, the party sponsors you, it builds a structure for you, gives you instructors, campaigns for you, goes the long haul, recruits agents for you, submits your name to INEC. The law is clear that only political parties, can submit names to INEC. This same party that provides you with a structure, you run, you win, and then you abandon the structure, move to a particular political party. I just think that for us as a people, I think it's morally bankrupt for individuals to do that. And our political history is replete with cases where individuals have created divisions themselves, within their political parties, to use that as an alibi, to cross carpet. And whether parties share similar ideology is just the fact that when you have a political system where individuals the political class only care about procuring political power, not to use power for the advancement of the common good, but for either inter-elite wars or to advance their own personal agenda, you get this cross-carpeting from one platform to another. Because in any case, we see, and when I mean we, the political class in Nigeria in particular, see our political parties as very special purpose vehicles for just contesting for office. And so it weakens, this attempt to deepen our democratic culture and build our political parties so they can emerge as strong democratic institutions. As long as individuals and if the courts continue, to uphold this bad behavior on the part of our political class, what we do is we damage, our political institutions, and then it affects our political culture. So people begin to ask the fundamental question that why should they, vote for particular candidates or parties, even if at the end of the day, individuals who get into those office, abandon the same platform that they ran on and move to another platform, and there is no consequence or repercussion for it. And I hope that perhaps if and when this matter goes to the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court will lay this matter to rest, the same way it has laid the matter on party deregistration to rest. I hope it also lays this matter to rest so that it regulates the character of our political class, where they only seek for political platforms just to run for office, and when they run, they abandon those platforms. And when they abandon those platforms, they stunt the growth and the development of those political institutions. And this will now leave us with a situation where we either evolve with a two-party state, or you have one particular political party that becomes a dominant figure in our political system. And that is dangerous for our democracy.
Right. Now, we're talking about the issue of morality, which I think wasn't part of the meat of what the judge said today, as regarding whether or not he can remove the governor from office based on his defection. But Samson, I'd like you to listen to what the senior advocate Michael Zekome said after the proceeding in court today, and I'd like us to discuss the issues that have been raised based on the Court of Appeal judgment, which is a precedent in this matter, and perhaps the implication going forward. And the Constitution is very clear on the immunity clause on governors or some members of the executive, the president, the vice president, the governors, the deputy governors. And you can also raise whether or not they can be sued in a civil or criminal matter. And you also will bring in the case of Atiku Abubakar versus the AGF when he left the PDP at the time to the ACN. So the question about whether or not the governor or the deputy governor can be removed in office, I wanted to listen to what Mr. Ozakome said again. I'd like to get your comment on what this means going forward in our political climate.
Members of Assembly and members of the National Assembly are governed by Section 68, subsection 1G, and Section 109, subsection 1G. Even then, what the Court of Appeal, Enugu Judicial Division, heard last week is that even at that, it is not the function of a court to remove them from office, to sack them. The function of the court is to order a by-election. And in terms of the removal of a governor or deputy, just like president and vice president, as decided by the Supreme Court, the apex court of the land, the highest court of the land, in all laws and all legal matters, the Supreme Court had decided in that article's case that defection by president or vice president, and of course by parity, governor and deputy governor, is not one of the grounds permitted by the Constitution to remove a governor who has been sworn in, who has taken the oath of office and oath of allegiance.
All right, something you heard. In fact, from what the position of the Constitution, I'm not even sure that a senator was even captured when he talks about cross-carpeting and the implication of removal of a lawmaker. I think he just mentioned a House of Reps member, isn't it? Something. Give us a sense of what to make of what Mr. Okuzakame said based on the outcome of today's judgment.
No, I guess he's interpreting. Well, he's adopting a very strict interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution, or also the position taken by their lordships in the Supreme Court. But if do we need so let's look at this, Sheon. Now, the basis for qualification to hold a particular office is clear in the Constitution. Now, if an individual who runs on the platform of a political party and sponsored by a political party decides, to cross-carpet to another political party, even when there's no division within his existing political party, should the consequence be removal for office? Because I see what his Leonard Silk is interpreting. He's adopting a strict interpretation of the grounds for removal of a particular public official, and in this case, whether a vice president or a governor from office, and this is not indicated or expressly stated in the Constitution. Whilst I agree with the Leonard Silk, but the question is, if you vacate a particular platform, do you still have the qualification to be holding that particular office? If it's in the wisdom of their lordships to declare that by-elections be conducted, so it means that particular seat becomes vacant, then yes, that's fine. But I doubt if that's actually the position of the law, that by-elections should be conducted. And in any case, if you look at existing, provisions in the current Electoral Act, where attempts were made to reduce the cost, for conducting elections, my position will be, rather than conduct a by-election, I think that either the party should be allowed to nominate another candidate who takes that position, provided that particular candidate meets the constitutional requirement, for holding that office in relation to the qualification for holding that particular office, as expressly stated, in the relevant section of the Constitution. So I get the point that he makes about the strict interpretation, but the point is, yes, their lordships can interpret, the laws based on the facts available to them, but the Supreme Court is also a public policy institution. The Supreme Court, is actually in a position, to take decisions that take into context, the moral rules dominant in a particular society. And I think that their lordships, if this matter actually gets to them, it provides an opportunity to enhance and deepen our jurisprudence. And my suggestion and recommendation will be that where either a sitting governor or a sitting vice president or president, or any person holding an executive office, elected executive office, cross-carpets or decamps, that office, should be declared vacant. But the party, where the party should be allowed, to nominate another candidate to replace that particular governor, provided that the candidate meets the constitutional requirements for holding that particular office. And where the person doesn't, I think that they shouldn't be allowed to occupy the office. So we don't, have cases where we are conducting by-elections, expending taxpayers' money on the basis of actions taken by political actors to disrupt the governance of political process. Also,
because there are established judgment of the court from the case in Ondo State, the case of Atiku Abubakar, the case of Rotimi Amechi. These are established position of the court over whether or not who owns the votes. And it's been established that the political party, the votes belong to the political party. But from the position of the court today, what is the implication going forward? Perhaps the court will take a leave from what the appeal court has said. The matter at which the PDP are taken to court is going to be heard, and it's been entered at the appeal court. And perhaps the appeal court might also take a leave from his own judgment, which the Federal High Court is taking a leave from today. What do you think is the implication going forward for governors and deputy governors? We've seen cases in Zamfara State, for example. Is there any major lesson going forward for any in the next few years or so, when any governor or deputy governor wants to think in this direction?
I think that because this matter is still evolving, and these are courts of record, though at a lower level when compared to the powers and the jurisdiction that the Supreme Court has. My renewal recommendation is the parties in this matter should push this matter until it gets to the Supreme Court, so the Supreme Court, can rule on this matter, even though it's ruled on several on cases like the Atiku case being referenced. But there's an opportunity for the Supreme Court to enhance, our jurisprudence. And I think that first, we shouldn't encourage this bad behavior from our political class where they deceive the people, campaign on political parties, and after they win the elections on a particular platform, they move or jump ship on another political platform. I think it's morally wrong, and perhaps the Supreme Court can also sort of regulate that political behavior on the part of our politicians. So we don't have cases where they are crossing or jumping and cross-carpeting left, right, and center, because it doesn't bode well for the development of our political parties. So that's one. Two, I think that, yes, this ruling that was issued by the Federal High Court, as much as, yes, I have tremendous respect for their lordships, I think that our judges, when taking decisions of critical and sensitive on sensitive issues of this nature, which have high political salience, especially in an election year, I would really urge that they exercise caution when taking those decisions, so they don't ridicule the judiciary and make the public lose confidence in the ability of the courts to uphold the rule of law or even uphold public interest, because the law also exists. The court exists to advance public interest, and in this particular case, I hope that when it gets to the Supreme Court, their lordship will rise above any interest or any intimidation or any pressure to take the position that will enhance and deepen the quality of our democracy. And for me is political parties, politicians who vie for elections on a platform of a political party, and they win those elections. If they decamp, they should lose their seats, and the political parties should be allowed to nominate candidates to replace, those individuals. For me, that is the moral and perhaps even the legal thing to do, because votes, in an election belong to a political party. Until such a time that we would have independent candidacy in our electoral process, political parties will continue to sponsor aspirants or sponsor candidates in an election. And so we also have to encourage and enhance and recognize the role, the power that political parties have to field candidates. The other critical issue, Sheung, that we also need to talk about around this defection is the fact that our political parties also need to see this as a time and an opportunity to begin to reconstruct their ideology and also ensure that this whole concept of party supremacy is indeed party supremacy and not the supremacy of individuals. Because when the Constitution talks about divisions in a political party, what is the basis? What causes divisions within a political party? Cases where there's lack of internal democracy within political parties, there's lack of accountability in the election of either leaders of a political party or candidates of a political party. Those principles of accountability, of transparency, of inclusiveness are not upheld. And so when you create room for tension within the party and the parties are unable to absorb the shocks, that come as a result of this competition within the political structure, what you end up with is these divisions within political parties. And so parties also need a deep introspection to say, how do we strengthen our institutions in a way that these sort of divisions, whether in ideology, in principles, or in procedure, or in strategy, are resolved. In any case, we cannot stop political parties from having internal wranglings and competition, because competition, is part of democracy, it's part of the political process. But the competition that we aspire to see is competition, that advances ideas on how to fix the governance problems of our country. Competition that produces high-quality individuals from our political parties who have regard for moral ethics and values to run for office, and not a case where you've got competition within a political party where party nominations.
Thank you for your thoughts on this matter. Samson Itodo, the lawyer and the executive director
and not
of
necessarily
Yaga Africa. Thank you so much, Samson, for your thoughts on this very crucial matter of today. Thank you so much indeed for talking to us tonight. Let's quickly touch on another matter quickly before we close the program tonight. The visit of the national chairman of the APC, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, to President Muhammadu Buhari, basically to brief the president about the plans of the APC in conducting its primaries. There's no date yet, no schedule of activities just yet, but the party seems that they're ready to conduct the primaries. However, they're looking at options, which they say all options are on the table in how they will elect the presidential candidate for the party. The national chairman was accompanied to see the president by the acting caretaker chairman of the APC, May Malabuni. Let me show you some of those whose names have come up as potentials for the presidential race of the APC. Take a look at them. Some of them who have announced their interest and some of them who have not. That's why we said APC presidential potentials and aspirants. So take a look at some of their faces, from Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Yahya Bello to Professor Yemi Osinbajo, Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State, Rotimi Amechi, Minister of Transport, to the Governor of Cross River State. In fact, the name of the CBN governor has come up, Godwin Emefiele, but he has since said, no, he's not. But these are potentials, like I said. Now, these are the possibilities, the potentials of those who can make the cut for the APC. Ben Ayade, Ojuzo Kalu, Rochas Okorocha. Now, let's take a look. What does this mean? How can the APC ensure that it gets things wrong? Ayo Yalo, a member of the party of the APC, joins us now virtually. Thank you so much, Ayo, for joining us. Albeit we have just a few minutes left on the program. Give us a sense on what your party needs to do urgently to get things right. Time is no longer on your side. You do not have a date yet. You have between April and June to conduct your primaries. How crucial would this be for your party? Consensus or indirect primaries? If you can unmute your device so we can hear you. All right, while we wait to get Ayo's connection, let me allow you to listen to the national chairman of the APC, Abdullahi Adamu.
direct primaries, indirect, and consensus. The party has a choice which of these paths it will take. Since the history of democracy in this country, First Republic, Second Republic, up to where we are today, I don't remember any convention the size we held. I don't remember any convention that there were misgivings about the possibility of his success than this one. We came out clean, and we thought the leadership that Mr. President provided the party has made all this possible. So I came.
All right, then, Senator Abdullah Adamu, I understand now that we can hear each other. So give us a sense, we just have just a few minutes left on the program. How crucial will this be for your party? No dates yet. The plans may have come out in the next few days. What and how should your party go about this? The plans may have come out in the next few days. What and how should your party go about this?
Good evening, sir. I think we are making a big issue out of no issue here. And what I mean by that is that the INEC has given us between April to June to conduct primaries. So I don't think there is anything to be worried about. The party spokesperson has had a parley with the press in, I think, yesterday or today. And he was unequivocal to say that they're already working on the timetable. And I'm sure if it's not out by the end of this week, which is tomorrow, it should be out early next week. I don't see any problem in that regard. However, the mode of the primaries will depend on a lot of factors that the party leadership will look at, possibly direct or indirect primaries. I don't know about consensus because you have to get the buy-in of the candidates who are all jostling. But I'm very comfortable and confident that we're going to have a primaries and it will be very, very acceptable to everybody, so that after the primaries, everybody can close ranks and we can now move forward as a party to face the general election in 2023. So there is no problem about timing. So we still have enough time to ensure that we adhere to the timetable that INEC has advised.
It's even about the deadline or the date. It's about the how to go about it, because the national chairman has said that all options are on the table. And when we hear that, you know that you are at that crucial stage of determining whether or not the party should just decide on one person. And that's why the names of those who have come up, at least as far as your party is concerned, let's put up those names and those faces again, so that I'll comment to us, if you may, on some of these names that have come up. Some of them are sitting governors, some of them are former governors, sitting ministers, and some of them are heavyweight as far as your party is concerned. And the issue of zoning will steer your party in the face, isn't it? And how you need to go about it. What comes to your mind as a member of the APC, that if you want to take the challenge to the PDP and any other contender in the race, what should your party be considering in determining who is a flag bearer?
The only thing the party should be considering is transparency of the process. And I mean, we should ensure that whatever mode of primaries we eventually settles for is conducted with respect to the sensibility of every party member and the candidates that will be thrown up. We had, like you rightly said, a lot of heavyweights. The first person to throw his hat in the ring has been the Jagaban himself, and he seems to be the front runner right now. He's the one who has been all there telling everybody that he's interested and he's been reaching out. I think the other person who has also been very serious has been the governor of Kogi State, His Excellency Ayade, also a viable candidate because he represents the constituency of the young people. And then I think Governor Devumai has also been clearly there. As for the others, it's been maybe yes, maybe not. Like, for instance, the Minister of Transport...
We're totally out of time. Apologies that we do not have any more time on the program. But thank you so much for your comment on this. Ayo is a regular commentator on the APC affairs and issues concerning his political party. Thank you so much, Ayo, for your time tonight. And that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.